Hello, and welcome to Street Aesthete. This is the show where we explore street view coverage of a noteworthy location, looking out for beautiful architecture and stunning scenery, while I amuse myself by remarking on what we see. And in today's episode, we're going to be exploring the capital city of England, and indeed of the United Kingdom, London. Now I know what you're thinking. London is a vast and notoriously sprawling metropolis. Which part of London are we going to be looking at? I've lived in London my whole life. I've explored a good deal of it, and the place where I have found the highest density of beautiful architecture is this area here, south of Hyde Park. It's in the Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, and I want to take you to some of the streets that I consider to be the finest for viewing Victorian red brick architecture. We're going to be starting just south of Sloane Square here, and I want to take you on a little tour. Here is just a little taste of what's to come. There are going to be many rows of absolutely gorgeous red brick Victorian buildings, and this is an area of London, I would say, that tourists tend not to visit. Tourists will of course go to the West End, they'll go to the City of London perhaps to see St Paul's Cathedral, they'll go to Soho, to Theatreland, they'll go to the museums, which are just a little way northwest of here in Kensington. We are indeed in the borough here of Kensington and Chelsea. But because most of the area that we're going to be looking at is residential, it's not really the sort of place that a tourist would go and visit, so many tourists will miss out on some of this stunning architecture. We've got many different architectural influences on display here. We've got the Flemish-style step gable. We've got the red and white striped Byzantine influence. We've got some Renaissance-like decoration here, the curly ornamentation on the gables. We've got this fabulous bay window, which is something that I believe was popularised during the Victorian period. We've got this more Baroque decoration here above the windows. And then more on the classical side underneath, we've got this wonderful portico with the columns on either side. And we've got a whole street of it. There is just so much wonderful cohesion on this street. Not to mention these gorgeous plane trees on either side of the road, adding a splash of greenery to what might otherwise have been a rather homogeneous looking scene. Now something a bit different, probably built a little bit later, I would say, than most of the rest of the street here. This building doesn't have the same gable top decoration. Its distinguishing feature would be the white stucco decorations. The balcony pediments, these very classical bits of ornamentation above the windows here. And of course the beautiful iron railings. A beautiful moment here where the white meets the red. But with a hint of the red and white stripes that we've seen elsewhere on the street, visible here in the chimneys. And we are now entering Sloane Square itself. There is a tube stop here, which is on the District line, I think. And one of the buildings that I've always been particularly drawn to on Sloane Square is this one here, which is extraordinarily ostentatious, isn't it? It really strikes the eye with its stripes. 1908. It's a pity that this building got squashed in between all of the older architecture, but it's not unlikely that a bomb might have been dropped right here during the Blitz in the 1940s, and probably another gorgeous building, not unlike these, stood there, which had to be replaced. It's just a pity that the decision was taken to replace it with that very ugly offering. Slightly older here, 1898. And perhaps one of the most distinguishing features we can see here would be these awnings above the windows. And actually, perhaps we could say also very distinguishing is the masonry used for the balustrade of the balcony. The War Memorial in the middle of the square over there. And we simply must go and take a look at this church, which we will do in a moment, but I just want to have a look at the other side over here. And it's great to see the Union flag in evidence here. I'm always pleased in street aesthete when we explore a country and see the national flag flying. I love these stripes on the arches above the windows here. And indeed the custom brickwork around the windows. Just wonderful. Well, we will be returning in this direction, but first of all, I want to take you a little further north to show you what else is in the neighbourhood, including this absolutely astonishing church, presenting a very wide facade to the street. I wonder if we've got some coverage from another date where there isn't the road work. That looks like a sunny day. That will do very nicely. So much detail here above the window, and the slightly castellated top here. Just a wonderful sense of symmetry to it, and its neighbouring building is also very beautiful. The little portholes in the gables on top here I find very attractive. It's very nice to imagine yourself in an attic room up here, peering out of the window. Let's proceed. Still lots of red brick here, but perhaps a little bit less ostentatious than some of the other buildings we've seen. And look at this! Fantastic, a pedestrianised street, the flag bunting flying, people out enjoying themselves. This was August of 2022. Fantastic summertime. 2022, I remember, was a very hot year. Although this doesn't look like it was one of those excessively hot days. It really is a red brick paradise here. It is a bit of an assault on the senses, isn't it? There is just so much decoration, so much contrast to the white against the red. Interesting here how we've got what would be gables, but they've filled in the gaps. I would say that this part that we see here is probably a later addition. The brick looks newer, and in fact the tiles, we should say. It at one point perhaps would have looked more like its neighbour, with these windows separated rather than with the gaps filled in. Great, the variety of gables we can see here, the taller, thinner ones, interspersed with these larger, wider ones. Looks like we've got the Spanish embassy over there. And just lots of individual decorations, little bits of uniqueness on each building. These decorations above the windows here, the red and white stripes. And a little tower, a little turret on top there. Something to note about these buildings and who would have lived in them. So they were built probably in the late Victorian period, if not the turn of the century, early 20th century. And generally, they would have been dwelt in by a single family. That may still be the case now, in fact, but you can see these basements underneath, which have been dug out to allow light to get through the windows, and generally these would have been the servants' quarters, where your cook, your maid had their dwelling place. Now many such buildings tend to be converted into HMOs, that's houses of multiple occupancy, or they get converted into flats, because we do in London have a burgeoning population, most of it not homegrown, and all of these people need to be housed. But actually, the borough we're in now, Kensington and Chelsea, is renowned for its wealth and its affluence, so it's quite likely that many of these houses are still single-family dwellings. They're probably owned by very wealthy people who may or may not dwell in them the year round. They might also have property elsewhere. But of course, some of them might also have been bought by wealthy foreign investors from places like China or the United Arab Emirates. Sometimes they are bought and not occupied, simply used as a way of storing money. I'm going to take us back over here to an area of the neighbourhood that I want to take a closer look at. An amazing street. Really wonderful. And we've got here a blue plaque. Little Langtry, actress, lived here. I'm afraid, Little Langtry, that I've never heard of you. Lots of different directions to go in. Pursuing my appetite for red brick architecture. Would be interesting to get a better look at this one. Taking lots of cues from the Gothic church. I like to walk around this neighbourhood every now and again, especially in the summertime, and to take pictures of beautiful buildings here. But of course, many of these houses are dwelt in, and it can look rather suspicious if you walk around taking photos of people's homes. They, understandably so, tend not to like it. We are going to head back on ourselves to look at some of the buildings over there, but I do want to take a moment to admire this row here. Many of the squares, like this one, have these private gardens which are maintained by contributions from the local residents, and only they are allowed to enter into them. I think this one is probably no exception. Yeah, not open to the public. And here we have perhaps one of the most distinguished buildings in the whole area. Really is some architect's magnum opus, built in 1886. But it's not all red brick around here. We also have quite a few of these sorts of streets which are called mews. Generally the streets are fairly narrow, and there are these beautiful terraced rows. And the people who live here often take pride in maintaining a little area on the street out of the front of their homes. Although this is perhaps one of the less distinguished examples that we might come across. It reminds me somewhat rather of streets that you might see in the Netherlands, where people have their little stoep outside of their homes. And I believe we were on this street before. Yes, indeed, there are the windows that had the gaps filled in. I've got lots more to show you in this area, so I think we're going to bring this video to a close and return for part 2. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video with me. Since you've made it this far, why not subscribe? And that way you won't miss part 2. Have a look at some of the other videos on my channel, exploring beautiful architecture from towns and cities all over the world, and also playing GeoGuessr. If you've enjoyed the music that you hear in this video, then take a look at my first channel, which is where I upload all of my original music.